Hello and welcome to Rosary WMD, Weapon of Mass Destruction Against the Evil One's Lies. This is a live stream of, I'm going to be doing a presentation on the warning. This is a repeat presentation. I did one live a few days ago on the 27th of February, but I decided to do another one. I've added just a few things. So there's not really a lot of new stuff, but I wanted it to be its own separate video as opposed to being attached to the Rosary. So I decided I was going to do it, record it, and upload it, but I decided, why not just do it live? Maybe we'll get a few people on here. So thanks for anyone who may be joining us. I am going to go ahead and go straight into, and again, this presentation is on the warning that has been prophesied to come. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me go down to the monitor display. Okay, so we're going to start with a video that Thirdeaglebooks, Mr. Tapley on Thirdeaglebooks, put out a video quite a long time ago on August the 1st of 2017. And that video is linked inside of the description box of this video, so if you'd like to watch it, you're more than welcome to click that. It's right there for you. The title of the video was called Two False Prophets, Lyn Leahz and Bill Salus. Even though we're not going to talk about those two false prophets, we're going to talk about something else that Mr. Tapley mentioned in that video. And here's what he says. This is a transcript from that video. Here's what he said. I got a very interesting message from a certain lady. Her name is Marie Stella Jesu. She had sent me a book, and I read the whole book. It's extremely interesting. However, at this time, I cannot give her name. I cannot give her location because she did not give me permission to do that, and I will keep you informed since I think there is some validity to this. Here's what she wrote to me, and everything that's in bold print is what she wrote, and then there are some side notes I believe Mr. Tapley put in to explain things. So she wrote to Mr. Tapley, said, "Dear Mr. Tapley, thank you for your kind response. I have permission from the Blessed Mother to inform you that you may report this mission on your channel. She asked that you would not report our town area or its destination at this time. We are in the process of moving to another nearby location in order to maintain privacy. We should be out of here by August 1st, which that was the day that he posted this video. I will let you know when you can reveal our township to your listeners soon, though at present there is nothing here to see yet. You are most welcome to call me or Stephen," and Stephen, that's her partner in this project, "at any time, especially if you would have any questions pertaining to the book. And this is a very interesting book she wrote. I hope she gives me permission to tell you about it soon." She goes on to say, "I am most delighted that you are interested in this mission that includes St. Joan of Arc." And Mr. Tapley says, "I believe she means Joan of Arc is guiding her in this refuge development. Our Lady steered us in your direction. She wants you eventually on board if you would be interested. Thank you again through Jesus and Mary Immaculate." And then she signs the letter. All right, so you may be wondering, well, why am I bringing this up? Well, it will connect here in just a moment. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so the very next time Mr. Tapley on his channel Thirdeaglebooks mentioned Marie Stella Jesu was several months later on February the 27th of the year 2018. Now that says exactly 4 years ago today. That's when I did the video back on 2/27 of 2022. But it's, a few days after. So it was around 4 years ago that he put out this video. And again, this video is also linked in the description box, so you want to go back and watch it. It's very fascinating. But I got this transcript from Mr. Tapley's book called If I Do Not Return, No Flesh Will Be Saved, which is volume 4 of his series of 4 books. This is found on page 205. And here's what he says in that video. he says, "You may remember back in August 2017, which I just read, I received a message from a very interesting lady here in the United States who was organizing a safe refuge for these end times under the direction of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And at that time I said I would give you some more information as soon as I received it. And she did send me a message a week and a half ago about, and I'm going to give that to you right now. I'm going to call her by her spiritual name, Marie Stella Jesu, and I cannot give you her real name or address, but soon as I receive it, I will give it to you. She calls this a, quote, summary and sequence of events for early 2018. And this information, he says, was compiled on February the 5th, 2018. Now, in his book, he does make a footnote and says that Marie Stella Jesu, which was her spiritual name, had actually died before her prophecies were fulfilled. And he goes on to say, I never endorsed or proscribed her revelations, but rather I presented them for public information. And I think, honestly, I think that that's for this time right now. There's a reason why Mr. Tapley put this video out. He said, just like Marie Divine Mercy or Garen Bendel or Bayside or anyone else's message, he said he's always stated that even about my own revelations that I will abide by the final determination of the church as to their authenticity. Okay, so now here is our good friend who recently passed away on February the 13th, 2022, Glenn Flavin. He is the gentleman standing right here at the end of the table. And right over here, I don't know these ladies. I know that they are part of, this is Sister Renee, who's, if you're part of WFRN, you know who Sister Renee is. But I bring up Glenn for a few reasons. First, you might remember back on February the 7th, 2021, Sister Renee took this cloud image of a crucifix in the sky, made with the clouds right here. And it was taken on 2/7/21 in the 9 o'clock a.m. hour. Now, how is Glenn connected to that? Well, about a month after the cloud picture was taken, Glenn, who joined me on the Rosary almost every single night for over a year, had emailed me, because I give my email address out. He had emailed me and had asked for Sister Renee's contact information. And so I ended up actually calling him, and he talked to me for quite a while, and he told me a story about that cloud picture. So the day before, so on February the 6th of 2021, Glenn and his family were very close to being in a car accident. He told me it would have been a very bad accident. Prior to that, Sister Renee had shared a St. Michael prayer to pray before you get in your car and start driving. And a lot of people really liked the prayer, and Glenn was one of those who really loved the prayer. And he prayed that before he got into the car on that February the 6th. And of course, there was a near accident. And he wanted to thank Sister Renee for giving that prayer, because he really believed that prayer saved him and his family. Well, he shared that story at the pilgrimage. This was around the time of the WFRN pilgrimage when this picture was taken. Of course, Sister Renee lives in close proximity to Mr. Tapley. And he had told Sister Renee, and he also told me on the phone, that when the near accident had happened, he asked God for Sister Renee to receive a gift for giving him that prayer of St. Michael to pray before you get into your car and start driving. And the very next day, as we all know, Sister Renee took this picture of the crucifix in the sky, in the clouds, the very next day. So Glenn is undoubtedly connected to this cloud image. And I know he shared this story at the pilgrimage. There is no video of his testimony on Mr. Tapley's, because he was a pretty private man. And so there's no video of this particular testimony on Mr. Tapley's channel. But I can tell you that he did tell me about it on the phone personally. So I think this is extremely important because there are some connections, I think, that are being made to a upcoming possible warning date. And we're going to get into that here very soon. So, in this top left-hand corner, as you can see, I have a screenshot of the very first time that Glenn Flavin had contacted me through email. Before this, he had been praying with me for several months. I was offering Our Lady of the Tear of Joy photos, and he wanted one. And he also gave me his phone number so I could call him, and I talked to him on the phone several times. But what's interesting is, you see, this is the video here where Mr. Tapley shares this summary and sequence of events for early 2018 that Marie Stella Jesu had shared with Mr. Tapley, and then he shared on his channel. And it's called Urgent Message, Prophecy of Nuclear War. Well, you might think, well, Kyle, how did you remember this particular video? Well, here's why I remembered it. Probably more than most people. In this video, as you can see circled right here, one of the projected dates of the warning was March the 30th. And if you are on my channel, you know that Glenn and I share a birthday on March the 30th. So what's even more interesting here, and I have arrows that connect here, if you see, the very first time Glenn had emailed me asking about Our Lady of the Tear of Joy, and he gave me his telephone number, he emailed me on February the 27th of 2021. And if you notice here, this video that Mr. Tapley published that shows the warning date as possibly being on March the 30th, it was uploaded on the very same date. However, of course, being 3 years prior to Glenn emailing me on February 27th. So you can see February is published on February 27th, and up here is where he emailed me on February the 27th. So I thought, wow, that cannot be just a mere coincidence. So like I said, this was the very first email Glenn Flavin had sent to me, was on February 27th. Mr. Tapley uploaded this video giving the summary and sequence of events for early 2018 on the very same day, February 27th. And again, Glenn and myself, Rosary WMD, my name's Kyle, share a birthday on March the 30th. So is this a coincidence? I don't think it is. Now, let's take a look at this summary and sequence of events from that video about 3 years ago from now 4 years ago from Mr. Tapley. First of all, I wanted to take a look at the title. So she called this a summary and sequence of events for early 2018. So let's look at that number, 2018. So the 2 could, 2 represents a 2. So we'll keep that as a 2. Now, this right here is a screenshot from Mary's Battle Beads, who kind of began the sacred numerology with his Angel Gabriel School of Sacred Numerology. And he said that 0 can represent a few things. It could represent nothing, or it could represent 1, 1, or it could represent a 2. In this case, if we make the 0 represent a 2, and then add it with the 18 at the end of 2018, we have 2, 2, and 18. The 2 plus 2 plus 18 equals 22. So, this summary and sequence of events for early 2018, or might this be a summary and sequence of events for early 2022? And what's really interesting is that this again was published by Mr. Tapley 4 years ago. And what is 4 significant in sacred numerology? 4 is significant and represents end times. So I feel like it's very fitting that this particular summary and sequence of events given to Mr. Tapley by Marie Stella Jesu was given 4 years ago, or 4 years prior to when possibly the summary and sequence of events would come to fruition. All right, so let's move on. So let's take a deeper dive into this particular summary and sequence of events. So first of all, it says on March 3rd. Oh, actually, I want to read something up here. So there are some caveats here. So whatever, whenever, and however events actually unfold, one must repent of one's sins to be spiritually prepared, making several acts of perfect contrition every single morning, day, and night. And she also said that some dates believed to be confirmed as correct, others interpolated and believed to be correct. So let's start looking at this. So March 3rd, she said that the beginning of sorrows, public media announces Pope/Cardinals flee Rome. This seems to coincide with Dana Coverstone's 2022 jet stream, where the sky turns gray beginning in March. And then I have a note down here that the calendar flips in the dream. He sees the calendar flip to March and then quote, and then the skies turned very gray, not dark, not black, just gray. From March 10th to 11th is the translation, or the great rescue of God's chosen people all over USA to a refuge. Now, I mentioned 311 with Mr. Tapley. I remember a while back, I've been watching Mr. Tapley for about, since about early 2013. And I remember at one point, I don't know if it was during a live stream, but he mentioned that the number 311 was an important number, that God had told him that 311 was a very extremely important number, but I don't believe he knew exactly what it meant. And I'm just suggesting, could this possibly be, could a translation happen on 311? Also on March 11th or the 12th, or sometime in that period, a surprise preemptive nuclear attack by Russia upon the USA, a conventional war upon Israel by Iran. And then she says March 25th, the date of the Great Warning possibly could be announced, which to note is March 25th is the feast day of the Annunciation. And then, of course, March 30th is the warning. Remember, Glenn and Kyle's, my birthday is that day, March 30th. And what's interesting is we are exactly 21 years apart. Of course, 21 could represent 777, or add 2 plus 1 is 3 for the Trinity. And then 12 to 13 of April, or sometime around that time, could be the Great Miracle. Now, Rosary and Scapular 555 has predicted that the miracle date would be on April 14th of this year, 2022. All right, let's move on. So, back to Glenn. A couple of interesting tidbits about Glenn's death date of February the 13th. One really interesting is Sister Lucia, who was one of the seers of Fatima, one of the children, I believe the oldest of the 3, and she was cousins to Francisco and Jacinta Marto. She also died on February the 13th, of course, back in 2005. What's interesting to note there is that Glenn and Sister Lucia died exactly 17 years apart from each other, and we know that 17 is a number that represents victory. Something also kind of to note is, although she was not born on March 30th, she was born only 2 days before on March 28th, so very, very close to March 30th. Also interesting is February 13th happens to be Saint Agabus, who is known as the prophet. That is his feast day. Saint Agabus was one of the 72 disciples mentioned by Saint Luke. Saint Luke wrote, after these things the Lord appointed also other 72, and he sent them 2 and 2 before his face into every city and place whither he himself was to come. What's interesting here is, so he wasn't one of the 12 apostles, but he was one of the apostles that was present at the Pentecost. If you add the 12 apostles plus the 72, you get 84, which could represent the 84 months of the prophesied tribulation. Also to note here is that on the day of Pentecost, he received, St. Agabus received the gift of prophecy, and he went on further to predict a famine in the Roman Empire, and he also predicted Paul's imprisonment. Although Agabus was unable to dissuade Paul from going to Jerusalem, he also predicted his own death. So I found that very interesting, this connection between March 30th, myself and Glenn, and this particular saint, Agabus, being a prophet who predicted things to come in the future. So let's take a look at the date, March 30th, 2022. So if we grab the 3 and the 3 from March and the day 30, we get 3-3. If we grab a 2 and a 2 from the year, we get a 2-2. And then we can split this 2 into a 1-1. And doesn't that awfully look like a countdown? Almost like a double countdown. Like there's been one countdown and then maybe perhaps a final countdown. So I thought that was interesting, just the date itself. Now, Rosary and Scapular, as you may know, is very gifted with sacred numerology and sees things and gets very incredible signal graces, and he has for quite a while. But he wrote me a message here recently that says, "Hey Kyle, here's another tidbit I just found. I went on your YouTube channel to see if you were going live tonight. I somehow ended up on the Miraculous Tear of Joy video, which happens to be, it's a very short video, it's 53 seconds long, and he noticed that he was the 420th viewer, kind of like the 420 date that we gave back almost a year ago. He said, guess what? Else I noticed was noticeable. You posted this video on 2/27 of 2021. So there's that February 27th date coming into play again. Like the findings you mentioned about 2/27 with Glenn and Professor T. Of course, that's Mr. Tapley. So very interesting. And then he gave me a screenshot of this, and you can see it. He was the 420th viewer. And I did publish this unknowingly here on February 27th, 2021. Now check out this amazing signal grace. Now, some of the signal graces that Rosary and Scapular receives a lot of times are on rosaries, or I'm sorry, on license plates. I myself have received signal graces from license plates several times as well. And wow, look at that. 3, 2, 1 looks like a countdown. WW3. Well, that sure looks like World War III. Also to note is this particular license plate has to be renewed in March. That's what MAR stands for, and in the year 2023. So what's interesting about this is take a look at the timestamp that Rosary and Scapular received this signal grace. It was almost a year ago on 3/30/2021. Now that timestamp of when he took this particular video shows a lot of things. So the 42 could represent 42 months of the tribulation and the Great Tribulation. The 42 could be the 420 date of the warning. Of course, that came and went. Unfortunately, we mislabeled that. We thought the warning would come last April 20th, but we just mislabeled. 24 could represent end times, which is 12 plus 12. 1442 could represent the date of the miracle, 4/14 of 2022. And then 24 could represent the age of Saint Therese, who said, "I will spend my heaven doing good upon earth." What's also interesting is look at that M-A-R. Remember recently I took the word mater and flipped or reflected the M into a W, and mater, which is mother in Latin, becomes water. Well, if you flip the M here for mar, you get W-A-R, which spells out the word war. So possibly, could World War III happen in March of 2023 before Christ's return on May 17, 2023? It's very interesting. And again, look at that timestamp, 3/30/2021, when Rosary and Scapular received this signal grace. Now, that famous Jacinta 1972 image, which has been known to show the warning date, this is a possible arrangement of where 3/30/22 could be found. Of course, here is the 3 for March. Here is another 3 right next to a 0, so 3/30, and then a 2 and a 2 right here for 2022. Now, I started doing some time and date calculations just to see, what I could find and what I was led to. So I first started with 5 weeks after March 30th, and that landed me on May the 4th. As you can see, I put into time and date 3/30/2022. I added 5 weeks, and it lands right on Wednesday, May the 4th. Now, why is May the 4th interesting? Well, May the 4th is a play on that Star Wars phrase, "May the Force be with you." And notice the blue and the red here, sort of good and evil. And so I found this little information bit about the phrase, "May the Force be with you." And I thought this was interesting. It says the Force, which is a metaphysical power capable of being wielded for good or evil, to protect or guide the other person. I thought that was, very interesting. May the 4th be with you. So if the warning happened on March 30th and there's some sort of 5-week grace period, well, May the 4th would be the day that you would need to decide which side you're on. And what's really interesting here is the similarities between this blue and red. May the 4th be with you. I just grabbed this off of Google Images. And, it's pretty well known that May the 4th is sort of that Star Wars, "May the 4th be with you." It's now in popular culture, people say that, and connect May the 4th with that particular phrase from Star Wars. So what's interesting here is I did this. I don't remember when I did this. It was several months ago. I was on the phone with Paula, and we were talking, and this kind of came about through our conversation, that the word Mary and Mark are only one letter apart. Of course, the Y at the end of Mary and the K at the end of Mark, meaning the mark of the beast. And I connected that to Y2K. Remember back in 1999, they thought, it was going to be the end of the world because there was a computer glitch and the whole Y2K, everybody was scared. They were putting money away, burying money, buying all kinds of things, probably, getting ready for an apocalypse, where nothing happened. But what I do believe is Y2K prefigured what's about to happen. And it's got, what's interesting is 2 represents mankind, and you have 2 right in the middle. Well, you have to pick a side. Are you going to go with the K or the Y? Are you going to go with the Mark, or are you going to go with Mary? Because we know that the woman there's enmity placed between the woman and the serpent. And the woman crushes the head of the serpent. So you as mankind have to pick a side. Now what's interesting here is Y is the 25th letter. God became man, or 2 through Mary, 5. 25 could also be 5 times 5. 2, of course, means man or division. K represents the 11th letter of the alphabet. And 11 in sacred numerology represents incompleteness and or disorder. So What's also interesting is Glenn, in one of my conversations with him on the telephone, he mentioned to me that he really, really liked this Mary Mark Y2K thing. He was like, did you come up with that? And I was like, well, yeah, I was on the phone with Paula, and it just kind of came out through our conversation. I just immediately thought, oh, Y2K, wow, that's interesting. And he mentioned to me that he thought this was really amazing. So let's move on. Sorry that this is kind of blurry, but this is something that John, a Rosary and Scapular, sent to me. And he said, just on a hunch, I thought about running the time calculation between Pope Francis's Amoris Laetitia, when the continual sacrifice was taken away, footnote 351, till March 30th of 2022. He says, check out below how many days that is. So from 319 to 2016 to 3/30/2022 is exactly 2,202 days, which is interesting here because if you rearrange those, it comes out to the year 2022. Also 72 months and 11 days if it's an alternative time unit. 72 months could represent 1972, the Ascenta image, or 27 months of the shortened tribulation. And then 11 days, of course, that represents, chaos. 6 years, 11 days, etc. So if you remember way back, I did a presentation on a good friend of mine, one of my best friends in high school, who during college wound up missing in the country of Argentina. And we all know that our Pope Francis is from the country of Argentina. Well, my friend's been missing since 4/8 of 2004. And why do I bring that up? Well, a couple of reasons. My friend Tony was in my first Holy Communion. Although we did not know each other at the time, we were in second grade, and we did our first Holy Communion together on April 28th, 1991. This is a program of that particular of that ceremony. And you notice here, even though we didn't know each other, our signatures on the back of the program are one on top of each other. So I thought that was very interesting. And I didn't notice this until after he disappeared. I had no idea that he was even Catholic. And I really had no idea that he was part of my first Holy Communion until I found this in some memorabilia that my mom had saved. So going back to here in my friend Anthony Lobdell, I sort of have a side-by-side here. Anthony Lobdell, he was born in Indiana, and he disappeared in Argentina. And remember, he was my first communion friend. And, being disappeared, he was taken away from me. So it's almost as if it was symbolizing Pope Francis taking away the daily sacrifice of the Holy Communion. And if you notice here, he went missing on the same date as the Amoris Laetitia with footnote 351 was published, April the 8th, 2004, which in that year happened to be Holy Thursday, which is when the sacrament of the Eucharist was established on Holy Thursday. So that makes an even bigger connection between, my friend being my first communion friend. He was taken away from me by disappearing in Argentina, Pope Francis's country, and it was on the same date as the publication of Amoris Laetitia, April 8th. So I'm not going to go over these times here, but I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. So why do I bring that up, my friend Tony, again? Well, at the time, I shared with my viewers that there was some interesting birthday connections. Tony, my good friend, had only one sister. Her name was Olivia. And I only have one sister. Her name is Amy. What's interesting is that Tony, my friend, and my sister share a birthday on July 6th. And myself and his Sister Olivia share a birthday on March the 30th. Again, very coincident. Can it be just a coincidence? I don't think it is. So as you may know, Scott Fox from Mary's Battle Beads has, we thought the warning was coming on December the 3rd. And that was an important date that we had discovered. And Mary's Battle Beads, Scott Fox is saying now that the warning did happen on December the 3rd. However, I respectfully disagree with Scott. I don't believe the warning has actually come yet. So I decided to see, how many days were in between that significant date of December, because no matter what, December 3rd was a significant date that was discovered. Between that date, December 3rd, 2021, and March 30th of 2022, is exactly 117 days. Well, what is 117 days? There are 117 titles of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and that's found in the Pieta Prayer Book. What's interesting here is it's also 3 months and 27 days. Well, those 3 months could represent the 3 periods or 3 days of darkness. The 27 months could represent that shortened duration period of the Great Tribulation, shortened by 15 months from 42 minus 15 equals 27. So I wanted to share this as well. Now this is new. Eric Clapton, we all know, very famous musician. He wrote a song called Holy Mother. And, he performed it live with Pavarotti, who is well known for doing a rendition of Ave Maria. He's an opera singer. Probably everyone who's watching this has heard, Pavarotti's. You may not have heard Eric Clapton's song called Holy Mother. He actually performed it with Pavarotti in this particular video. But as you can see, the lyrics are, I don't have all the lyrics up here, but Holy Mother, where are you? Tonight I feel broken in two. I've seen the stars from the sky. Holy Mother, can't keep from crying. What's interesting is look at Eric Clapton's birth date. And I've known this for a while because I find different things. I find it interesting. Like who has the same birthday as me. But he was also born on March 30th. He will be 77 years old this upcoming March 30th. And something also interesting, a connection between Eric Clapton and our Blessed Mother, is that song Tears in Heaven was definitely born out of unbearably sad circumstances. I don't know if many of you know, but Eric Clapton did suffer his 4-year-old son Connor died on March 20th of 1991 when he accidentally slipped from, get this, the 53rd floor window of a New York City apartment building. We all know that the 53rd floor, 53 or 53, is significant to the Rosary and Mary. And I apologize, everyone, for my dog barking. I let him out before, and I think the neighbor must have a dog out or something, so I apologize for that if the microphone's picking it up. But I decided to add this because I think that's really, really interesting. Eric Clapton being born March 30th. He wrote a song called Holy Mother, performed it with Pavarotti. Tragically, his son, which I think changed, Eric Clapton's. Eric Clapton, himself will say, I think he even owns a rehabilitation center for struggling addicts. He was an addict himself, and perhaps, Blessed Mother helped him through that. Because as far as I know, he's clean and sober for several years. But, how sad, the 53rd floor, there's another connection to our Blessed Mother. So I thought I'd share that as well. And then this came to me just yesterday, just the date 3/30. What's interesting is we know that our Lord and Savior Jesus, his public ministry lasted about 3 years. And he spent 30 years with his mother. And so 3 years public ministry, 30 years with his mother before in a private setting. And then, of course, he died at 33 years old at the time of his crucifixion. So, warning, it's my birthday. On 3/30/2022, I will be turning 39 years old, which I think is significant. 39 could represent the 39 verses found in Daniel chapter 3, known as the Litany of Praise, but it could also represent the 3 9-month, quote, days or time periods of the Great Tribulation, the 3 days of darkness. Plus, 3 plus 9 equals 12, and 1 and 2 makes 3 is warning. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the presentation. I notice, hi Francis D. Let me go back to the beginning of this presentation here. Okay, oh wait, not quite back to the beginning. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the chat here. Hi everyone, welcome. Yes, it is a nice little surprise. Like I said, I was going to do this as an uploaded video, but I decided to just do it live. You know, it's just easier. It's just one less step. It'll already be uploaded as its own presentation. I might have to take off like the first minute or so later on once it uploads completely. But hi, Francis D. Thanks for the night. She says, nice surprise. And Katie Paul. Hi, Katie Paul. Thank you for joining. And I think that's all that was able to join me. So hopefully we'll get a lot of views on this particular presentation. Like I said, I haven't really been discouraged with the dates that we've given, and you know, the date comes and nothing really happens. I understand that, you know, it is really all prophecy is conditioned to mankind's reaction, or you know what we do. More prayers can change, you know, prophecy. I haven't been, you know, too discouraged, and I didn't plan on giving another date. Of course, I give a caveat: it's a possible date. You know, we're just trying to make connections and come out with, you know, a date so that we're ready and prepared as best as we can. Of course, we know we need to go to confession and be in a state of grace, and of course pray. So one of the reasons why I wasn't, you know, too concerned with putting out another date was I didn't actually put out this date. This date was put out 4 years ago by our very own Mr. Tapley on Thirdeaglebooks. And then of course he didn't come up with the date. It came from you know, Marie Stella Jesu, who, you know, clearly Mr. Tapley, he had talked to her on the phone several times. He clearly thought that there was some validity to what she was sharing, and I really, like I said, I think there's a reason why Mr. Tapley posted that back on February 27th of that summary of sequence of events back on February 27th, 2018, and I think that reason is for right now. And so, you know, that's why I didn't feel as bad sharing this date. You know, if it comes, you know, well, it's going to be a great day anyway because it's my birthday. But how amazing and, you know, fascinating would that be if the warning would happen on my birthday and Glenn's birthday of March 30th. Okay, that's pretty much the presentation. Thanks again, Francis D. and Katie Paul, for hanging around and being, you know, on YouTube and noticing the live stream. I will be back live again tonight with Paula for a double jab of the Holy Rosary. So I look forward to that. And all right, so we'll see you then at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. Until then, God bless. We'll see you again tonight. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, I do have a quick little presentation. I think you'll find it really fascinating. It doesn't have to do with the warning, but I do have a really fascinating insight that I got today. So I'm going to share that. It's very, very short, right after the Rosary tonight. And it does have to do with the number 153. So anyways, thanks everyone. God bless. See you later.